Hi friends, it's Terry Stewart, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator located in the U.S. in Central Maryland. Welcome to, I believe it's day 5 of the 12 days of creativity that we are celebrating. Well, actually it's 12 days and I'm on day 5 of 12 days of creativity. So welcome. I am going to be using the Totally Awesome stamp set. I'm going to have several techniques I'm going to share with you, and I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. I'm going to turn the camera. If you're watching either live on replay, get ready. If you get sick when the camera moves, you should look away now because I'm moving the camera, and I'm going to move it up, and you see my ceiling, my lights, my head, and then you should be able to see my workspace once I get this turned. Okay, there we go. Okay, jiggle the camera a little bit. All right, if you can look now. Everything's good. And let me get my laptop going, and then we can jump into this technique card. Where am I? There I am. Okay, let me, so thank you so much for being here. And I did check out the other presentations. So I kicked off on the 1st, which was Saturday. And I know that Diane came next. Beautiful, beautiful snowflake card. Gorgeous card. Shirley went for the next 2 days. And here I am the 5th. And tomorrow Shirley will be back, followed by Julia. So one of our Australian friends, and I can see that this camera is drifting already. I apologize in advance. I'll try to keep an eye on that. Hi Trudy, thank you for joining me. So Totally Awesome, this is a stamp set from the annual catalog. I'll do a brief catalog tour after my project. And I picked this because I love these turtles. Look at these turtles. They look like they're having so much fun, right? So you got turtles, and then you got things that go with the turtles: a balloon, cake, party hat, ice cream, little birds, a flower. We'll be using the flower today. And up here's a microphone so your turtles can sing, some notes, and then you have these sentiments. You know, hope your birthday is totally awesome. Of course, you got turtles. It's gonna be totally awesome. Hooray! Here for you always. It's okay to take it slow, which turtles go slow, right? And sweet friend. So I like the images. I like the sentiments. And there are dies that go with this where you can cut out each of these turtles, the balloon. It makes a banjo so your turtle can play the banjo. There's I believe an apron. It's really cool. You should check this out. So let me show you the card and my inspiration for this. Oh, and the other thing is this is a photopolymer stamp set. So you can stamp the microphone right into his hands or put the ice cream cone right into the turtle's, is it hand, paw, foot? I don't know. Anyway, so let me show you my card and the technique. So this is the card. And we're going to do some masking on this project, as well as watercolor pencils, and then I'm going to use a blender pen to kind of activate that. Now the paper, okay, so that's my card. Let me put my stamp set aside. This is the card that I'm going to be showing you today, and hooray! This is the card that inspired it. So I made this card at a Stampin' Up! Event back in the spring. Now, we didn't do any masking. We did put the flower right into the turtle's hand. And we cut up the greeting. I like this card, but it's a little plain, so that's why I kind of stepped it up. It has a lot of the same elements in the card. So speaking of the elements, I added the paper. So within the Totally Awesome stamp set, there's a coordinating paper, and you can see there's a lot of turtles. There are turtles who are like on vacation. There are turtles who are in a band. There are turtles who are eating ice cream and on a bike. I think there's even turtles who are at the beach. Where are the turtles at the beach? There's some card fronts that you can cut this up and make scenes with your turtles. Where's the turtle? Oh, here's the turtles at the beach and barbecuing. So very, very cute. And this is the pattern that I'm using today, the stripe pattern. And the other cool thing, let's put this aside. I'm using, I don't know if you can notice that the paper is a dark and a light. And I've done the same thing with the pool party. It's a dark and a light. Well, this is, what's it called? Turtley Sweet. It's a 12 by 12 paper, and it's two-tone paper. And what that means is one side is dark and one side is light. So you can see here, that's the dark side of the pool party, and this is the light side. So for each of these colors, there's Poppy Parade, there's a dark and a light. So you can see the dark, and that's the light. And the Granny Apple Green, the same with that, and the Crushed Curry. Oh, look, I think that's Petal Pink back here. Let me pull that out. Yes. So that's pretty nifty, and that's why I wanted to do this card, so you could see that this two-tone cardstock. So let me put this aside and bring in my ingredients. This camera continues to drift. Apologies. We are having a document that goes with this 12 Days of Creativity, and all the measurements will be on there. I figured out the metric measurements, and that will be in the document. So I'm just going to talk about the imperial measurements this go round. So we have a half sheet. This is Granny Apple Green, half sheet scored in half. Have a piece of that DSP from the Turtley Cute DSP, and this is 4 by 5 1/4. I do know the metric with that is 10 by 14.4 centimeters. And I have a piece of basic white that is 3 3/4 by 5 centimeters, and that's going to be on the inside. And for my metric friends, let me see if I can get this right. 9.5 by 13.9. And then I don't remember the metric measurements or the imperial measurements. Oh, I can tell you that. So this is 3.5 by 4.5 inches, and this one is 3 by 4. So they're just a layer down. And then I have a 2 by 3 inch white, and this is a 1/2 inch, and it's really just a scrap that I'm going to stamp the sweet friend on. So let's get started with our stamping. So we're going to stamp on, well, before we do that, let's do some paper trimming. We'll bring in my paper trimmer here, and this piece is 3 by 4. Am I correct on that? Yeah, 3 by 4, and I'm going to cut it at 1.5 inches. And it doesn't matter because they're the same, color on both. Well, doesn't matter. But anyway, I'm going to cut the bottom, what is going to become the bottom, cut that in half. And then we're going to use the light side on the bottom and the dark on the top. And then this one that's 3.5 by 4.5, we're going to cut that in half. And that is 3, so it's 3.5, so that's 1 3/4. Ooh, doing math on the fly. So should just cut that piece in half. So one side will be light and one side will be dark. Okay. And that's going to show off our two-toned cardstock. And now we can do some stamping. So we're going to stamp on the green part. We're going to stamp a greeting on this white. We're going to stamp our turtle here. And then we're going to stamp on the inside. So everything else can go to the side. And so let's start with our masking, and then we'll just do everything else. So let me set these to the side. And this camera is drifting, and I'm so sorry. I just have no luck with my camera. It just will not stay in one spot. So first thing, we're going to stamp our turtle on this piece of white, and then we're going to mask him and stamp the flowers around him. So let's just ink him up and stamp him kind of towards the top because we want those flowers to show, and I'm going to try to center him as much as possible. All right. I'm sorry, I'm jiggling the camera. Okay, perfect. And I have a chamois off to the side, so I'm going to wipe that ink off. And now we're going to mask him. So in order to, I guess I shouldn't have cleaned the ink off anyway. On the sticky side, on the end, so this, there's no sticky, there's sticky up here. I'm going to stamp my turtle on the sticky side, like so. And then I would bring in my, take that off, bring in my paper snips and go very carefully around the edge and cut him out. And I've already done that, so you don't have to watch me do that. And here's my mask. Uh-oh. Where did my little white piece go? Is it stuck to it? Okay, I just stamped him. Oh, stuck to the sticky notes. Okay. So now we're going to mask him so when we stamp our flowers, they do not go over his body. So here's that little flower image from our stamp set. We ink him up, and then I'm just going to go along and stamp these flowers, but I'm going to stamp them at various heights. As flowers aren't all the same, and I could stamp over that pink Post-it note because it won't get on our turtle. Make those all the same. Then we're going to come up. And I can stamp them kind of close together. I can stamp them somewhat apart. And just do flowers at different heights. Okay, and I think we can stamp the inside because we're going to use black ink. So we'll set him aside for a moment and stamp on the interior of our card. And I'm going to bring in my hooray. I'm going to do that in Memento ink. So let me ink this up. And you can look through, because it's photopolymer, you can see if you've missed any spots on the stamp that doesn't have ink. But it looks good. I'm going to stamp this towards the top, and I'm going to center it. Give it a little press, hold for 3 seconds. Perfect. And I think that is all the black ink, all the Memento ink we're going to do today. And now I can bring in my garden green. So I'm kind of sticking in this green themed color scheme. Green scheme color theme. I cracked myself up. Yeah. Okay, so let's ink him up in garden green because turtles are green. And put him down here in the center, or it's towards the bottom. Okay, and now, we're going to do this. So we've done the center, done the inside piece, and now we're going to stamp on our light. So these This is the garden green two-tone, and we're going to stamp on the lighter tone, some flowers, and we're going to stamp on this piece of scrap of basic white that's a 1/2 inch, which I believe is 1 centimeter. Don't quote me on that. So it will be all in that PDF. So bring back my flower. Now we don't need to mask this because there's nothing going on top of it. So we'll just ink that up. And again, we'll do various heights. And we'll put some together. Some above, clumps of 3s and 2s. They don't have to be equally spaced. Doesn't matter. Wildflowers come in all heights, and some are together, some aren't together. Maybe do some tall ones here. Okay, so there's all that flowers, and the last thing are going to stamp is the Sweet Friend, and see if I can get this so it's not going downhill. Got it all inked up. And that looks about right. Hold it for 3 seconds. Well, that one, let's try it on the other end. I don't like that. It doesn't look like it's covered so well. Maybe if it, so let's try again. That's the great thing about having a scrap. These are, give it another go. Make sure I get covered. And then hold it for 3 seconds. Much better. Okay, so now everything is stamped, and we can move on to the coloring portion, my tutorial. So this is where we masked. Just cut this right now, so while we're here. So I'm going to cut it the same distance it is from this end, so the spacing is correct, and just use my snips. Okay, done deal. And now we are going to color. So we have our stamp. Let me bring in my watercolor pencils. So this is assortment 2. The colors I'm using are the Cherry Cobbler, Garden Green, and the names are down here, the colors. The tips don't always match. So like this one is actually crushed curry. And that to me does not look like crushed curry, and that tip does not look like crushed curry. So it's very helpful that the color is imprinted on the pencil. And this is Granny Apple Green. This is assortment 2. And so what I have done is for the flowers, actually I wanted to show you, I had started one. Let me see where I put it. Where did it go? Because I had started one, so I didn't want you to have to, oh, there it is. Just had to move some things that were off camera. So I had started coloring him just so you don't have to watch me do that. And what I did, I took this Cherry Cobbler and I went in these petals, each petal, and colored them. I'm kind of doing little circles because it is a smallish space. The harder you press and the darker, the more you go over it, the deeper the color is. So that's what I did, Cherry Cobbler on the flowers. The centers are the crushed curry. And again, I just did a circle, like so. Did all of those. The leaves I did on Granny Apple Green. I went over the leaf, the stem, and then over the leaf. colored that in. And then the garden green, I did the lines on his belly. I'm doing it lightly on the shell, just giving it a light press, and then on the speckles on his shell, I was really pressing a little bit harder. And you can go over this, and the more you go over, the darker it's going to become. And that will really show up when we use the blender pen. And here for these lines for the neck, I'm pressing really down to put a lot of the pencil mark. And on his knees, I guess, I don't know, elbow, knee, like so. So now it's all colored, and I'm going to bring in my blender pens. So the blender pen is clear. Now it does stain, and you can just rub it like that to make sure it's clear so the ink is not on there right now. And I'm going to do these red flowers, so each little petal, when I go over it, it kind of brightens it up, and the pencil marks blend in. It becomes almost like a watercolor effect. So it takes the pencil lines out, activates that watercolor from the pencil, and brightens it up. And because it's touching that watercolor pencil, it's also on the top. So next color, you probably can't tell, but it's very faintly pink. So now I'm going to move to the yellow and just do these centers. I think my husband might be home, so momentarily the front door will open and you'll hear a little bustling, maybe. So I'm going to wipe that off, the yellow. Now I'm going to do the granny apple green. So go over the stems and the flowers and add some color to that. Well, not add color, but smooth the color out and activate that watercolor pencil. So now all the flowers are done and the stems. I can move on to my turtle. So I did up there, the little bit of shell, and do these speckles. I don't know if you can tell, but the pencil marks kind of smooth out. And then we can do his lines on his shell, his marks up here on his neck, these elbows and knees. There. So now that is all done. Again, I'm going to scribble this out, and the color is clear for the next time I want to use my blender pen. So now we can start assembling. I'm going to let's put all these pieces together and bring in my card base and the other pieces. So first things first, I'm going to take my bone folder and fold my card base. I scored it in half. And on the inside, we can place our insert. Just got a new bottle of glue, so it's oozing out. It's good to go. That is a good problem to have, because I hate when they're getting low and you squeeze and squeeze and it pops out and it just over too much glue. Just want enough. Now this is one layer down, so I like the... Alright friends, I had a technical issue with my internet, and I had to, well, it paused, and I'm back, so we'll just pick up where I left off. Unfortunately, I'm sorry that happened. Yeah, so let's just pick up where I left off, right? Okay. So I glued in the insert. Now we're going to the card front, and I picked up my piece of DSP that's going to be laid on the card front, and I was just admiring the other side with this cute turtle who's at the beach with his floaties. There's a sandcastle, there's a crab, some shells, just adorable, right? And that's why it's so hard to choose which side. You have so many options, and they're all cute. So, okay, we'll put this down, and this gets centered in on our card front. And now I'm going to take these two. So this is a piece of that two-tone cardstock that I cut in half. And I want the darker side on the left. It needs a shadow. I don't know that it matters. I just wanted that shadow on the left. And I'm going to dry fit these in here before I glue them down, just so I can get my spacing correct. So I'm going to do the piece on the left, put some glue on this, turn it over, hold my lighter side and butt it right up against, let's see, it looks about right, maybe a little in, and then this side is going to come here. Maybe we need to push this a little to the right. Let's lift this up. I hope I don't regret this. Just a little to the right. Looks good, right? Yes. Somewhat better. I don't know if it's much better. And then we're going to glue the darker side face down. The two-tone dark side. Okay. And then just put that right up there in the middle. Nice. And then we put our darker green cardstock at the top, and our lighter flower stamped at the bottom. Again, we're dry fitting these pieces to see the best placement. That looks good. So let's do this top piece first. Put some adhesive on there. So what do you think of this two-tone cardstock? I think a lot of the scrapbookers use it because it gives you options. You're in the same color family, the same color, it's just a lighter tone or a darker tone. And then the other thing about this two-tone is it's got a white core. So if you tear it, you see the white. So it gives you a little bit more of an accent. So there's a lot of nifty things about this two-tone. So don't overlook that in the catalog. And I will be doing a brief catalog tour following this presentation. So don't abandon me. Stay to the end. And then this piece I'm shifting. There's my husband. I am doing a Facebook Live, so I'm going to put this a little overhang on the pool party side and down into these flowers. So bringing out my favorite crafting item, dimensionals. I use a lot of dimensionals. Most every card that I make has dimensionals on it, and then you can even use to the ends. Tear off these pieces so you can use every last bit of goodness. And while I have them out, I'm going to put some dimensionals on this sentiment. And they fit right in there perfectly. All right. So, Sweet Friend's going to be up here. Our turtle's going to be down here with the flowers. I just need to remove these covers. And as much as I try, and I really try our hardest to put them, every single last one of these covers into my little garbage pail off camera, somehow or another, they will escape. So I'm going to shift this over to the left and give it a narrow border on top of those flowers. And then our Sweet Friends going at the top. Maybe over a little bit, so like so. And we need some bling, and I'm going to bring in these basic rhinestones and my take your pick tool, and this putty end and they'll just slide right off. So there's one left. That's the last of that. Is there one more on there? We'll put one small one up here, and I think I used a large one up here, and then I did a medium. So your eye naturally enjoys odd numbers for some reason, so I'm using 5, 2 and 3 and 5. There. So that is my Turtley Awesome Sweet Friend card. So we did some masking, we did watercolor pencils, and then we used a blender pen. So let me bring in my catalog real quick for the catalog tour. And this is the annual catalog. On page 49, you find the Turtley Awesome stamp set and the Turtley Cute DSP paper that we use for the card front. And then on page 69, this is where you find that Turtley Sweet two-tone cardstock. And it does come 12 by 12. You get 12 sheets, 2 of each of these colors, but they're two-toned. So that's really awesome. And then we're going to go to the back. And this is on page 128. This is the blender pen right here. And they come in a set of 3. And even if they are stained, they will color clear. And on the next page, on page 131, where you find the Memento ink, and that works well with the blender pen. And next we have page 133, the watercolor pencils. There's 2 assortments, assortment 1 and assortment 2. Now I did assortment 2 because it had the cherry cobbler, crushed curry, garden green, and granny apple green. And then on page 137, this is where you can get your basic white cardstock. And page 138 is the granny apple green cardstock. And then here at the top on page 139, garden green, we use the ink pad. So that was a quick catalog tour of all the products I used today. Thank you so much for joining me and joining us on this 12 Days of Creativity. Tomorrow, Shirley's back with another project. Julia will be back the day after with a project. And I'm coming back, I think, on the last day, or towards the end. I think maybe the last day. So I think I did the kickoff and the closing. Get with the demonstrator who invited you to this event so you can get the PDF of all the projects we are going to do over the 12 days, links to the videos on YouTube, as well as supply lists, photos, cutting measurements. All you have to do is ask that demonstrator. Thank you again for joining me. And until next time, remember, stamping is fun. Bye.